Hey guys, it's Allison from Fathom 5 Tarot. This is my third attempt to record this video. My pets have been freaking out and anyway, I'm thrilled to be doing it. So I'm giving it another try. I've been at it for like 45 minutes and I still don't have a video. So I'm going to try and do it again. And if there are disturbances this time, I might just talk through them. I'm sorry. I'll do my best because you know I'm not much of an editor. So I'm here today to talk about the Bonestone and Earthflesh Tarot by Avalon Cameron and Anna Turian. Sorry. Avalon Cameron is the concept person, the designer, wrote the guidebook, and Anna Turian is the artist. I want to approach this video a little bit differently today because there's going to be a billion standard walkthroughs on this deck, and the reality is it's not in print. All of the copies are already spoken for, and people are just getting them now. Some people have had them for a couple weeks. So I wanted to just take a look instead at what cards in this deck have made me just think about the standard Rider-Waite-Smith system in a different way. What have they given to me? And then maybe you can just sort of take that knowledge and apply it to your other decks, or just think about it, even if you don't happen to have this deck. Now, I will say that if you, I don't love doing like, hey, look at this amazing deck that you can't have. But the artist Anna Turian is in the process of working on a tarot deck of her own. It's going to be called the Tarot of Echoes, and I'll put links underneath so that you can find her work. So if you're watching this and you're like, oh, I can't believe I missed out on this opportunity, and this art style just speaks to me in my heart, then just know that there are other decks by this artist that you can buy right now, Oracle decks and a Lenormand deck, maybe two Lenormand decks actually. I'm not a huge Lenormand user, so I'm sort of more in the tarot world. And there's one coming, Tarot of Echoes. It's similar in style to her Oracle of Echoes, and the art style is just gorgeous. So just know that there's that opportunity there if you didn't get a chance for this bad boy. So just quickly, because everybody expects it, box, solid, hard, great. I already unpacked it all. I've been using it. You know, I don't unbox things on the actual camera because then I'll slice off part of a card and two of my fingers probably because I'm a bit klutzy. It's one of these bad boys where it comes in two sides of the box. It's going to be very well protected in there. It comes with a book, and it's a good size book. One of the things I loved when I first started watching Avalon Cameron is she's lived all over the world, but she now lives in Australia, and she's got this gorgeous accent. And she would look at books and she'd talk about them having a chunky book. And this is a chunky book. Lots here. I will say I have not cracked it. My personal process is I really like to go through and get a feel of the cards myself first. And then, but I'm very excited to read this. So what I should actually say, what you're seeing today is 100% my impressions. The thing that was unique about this deck was that it was, no, I wouldn't say crowdsourced, but it was created live. Oh God, a cat is going to come and disturb everything. You stay there. So she would have Facebook Lives and people would jump on and watch the coolest thing was watching Anna Turian like make the sketches and then paint the pictures, and like to watch art happen in real time is amazing. And people would often get to like chime in, what do you think about this particular card and should have this kind of focus? And I'd like to say that I participated, sorry kitty, sorry, you're going down there, in almost none of that. Partly because I was quite busy, and I often just couldn't get to them, but partly because this is back in 2017 and I just didn't really feel like I had that much to offer, right? These conversations about this system that like I just didn't want to. I wanted something that came from a group of people like that, but I wanted to be the recipient of it, if that makes sense. So again, all this to say that my interpretations are 100% me. I have not read the book. I didn't participate in the conversations really, and all that jazz. I guess the other thing I'm going to say is I'm not going to talk about the delays. This is a very delayed deck, and I paid for it in 2017. I got it last week, and the long and short of it is I'm not going to talk about it because I just do not care. It just didn't matter to me one iota. I just sort of early in the process when delays started to happen, I just asked myself that based on what I had seen of this artist and creator, did I feel like a deck was coming? And the answer was yes. And that was that. So that's it. That's all I have to say about that. Doesn't interest me really. So what I've done is this. Oh, I guess I should show you the cards. I guess you probably want to see those. But then I've sort of divided out. I'm not going to flip through every card because you'll be able to find that elsewhere. But I've got two sets of favorites cards here. One is just cards that I love because A, they're so beautiful. I just was knocked back by them. B, but this one's what I'm really interested in. Ones that made me go, oh, and think about the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith meaning of that card in a slightly different way, or added a layer of nuance. And I thought that might be interesting for you to consider then. And then you could take that back and be like, well, I don't have this deck, but are any elements of this in my other decks, or would I want to think about that card in that way, or something like that. So these are my leftover cards I'm not going to talk about specifically, but as you can see, they're all beautiful. It was, if I didn't stop myself strictly, I would have just done a whole total walkthrough, and it would have been 6 hours long. Borderless, you can see there's a tiny title down there. The cards are quite apparent to me what they are, so it's quite small, but it's great. They're matte cardstock. I know they're 350 GSM because that was on the site. I'm not that good at distinguishing, but they feel very, very high quality. I love that they're not shiny. Oh. They also, one of the last minute sort of surprises that Avalon had for the buyers of this deck, where they are gilded and they are red. And I have to say, just if it was up to me personally, I actually wouldn't have made this choice. Not because I don't love the red, which I do so much. I love the red. I just wouldn't have made it shiny. I just don't like shiny stuff. I'm just a matte person. Matte gilding, if there's gilding, and matte cardstock. It's just how I roll. But it's cool. I don't have any other ones like it. And the red is awesome. So it's great. It's great. If it were up to me in my world, I would have chosen a matte to go with this, but whatever. Okay, so these are all out of order, and I'll start with the beautiful ones and the ones that sort of taught me something first. And then there's a group of cards on a theme that I think is really cool and runs throughout this deck. I'm going to talk about that theme, and then I'll wrap it up so you don't have to listen to me anymore. Okay, so, and these again are in no particular order. The first one is just a beautiful one. Nobody does a moon like Anna Turian. Her moon in the Oracle of Echoes is stunning. I'm sure in the Tarot of Echoes, it's also going to be stunning. I love the sort of whirlpool at the bottom. There's never been a moon card that I don't love, and this one I love a lot. I'm one of the people who signed up for the, there was a bonus package where you'd also get one of Anna's original prints. And if it was the moon, I would lose my mind. Although actually there's lots I would lose. Any of these, I would lose my mind over. And actually now that I look at them, I'm like, oh, maybe that one. So forget what I just said. They're all amazing. The Sun card, I really like that this is the traditional Maypole welcoming of the sun, May Day festival. I love that sort of deep-rooted tradition in there, because I wouldn't say there's a ton of it in here. I mean, maybe specific Brujeria traditions. I can't now think of the name of Avalon's tradition, which is super embarrassing because she's Brazilian. There's probably tradition in there that I'm not recognizing, is what I'm saying. But I love this, and I love that the Maypole strands are from the sun itself. I love that blending of literal and metaphorical, and I think it's a really beautiful card. I'm just going to take this opportunity that I will always support a world card being a tree. It's my favorite depiction of the world. I love it. The Anna Kay does this. What else? Green Witch does this. Oh, I know there's others. But it just works for me on every level. I love this Eight of Wands. I've seen a lot of horse Eight of Wands, and I am a horse person, so that's immediately going to appeal to me. But what I like about this Eight of Wands is there are riders, right? So, and if you are a horseback rider, you know that if you're galloping near other horses, that takes a tremendous amount of skill and you have to be aware at all times of what's happening. So I love that the implication here is not just forward speed, but also that you are maintaining some kind of control of that speed, because otherwise it could all go downhill super quickly. And it's just not something I'd thought about before with the Eight of Wands that this card helped me think about. So I love that. Can we just talk about this Queen of Wands? Her face is so alive and gorgeous. I mean, and I should say this is a deck of gorgeous people in all stages of life, like gorgeous people who are older and gorgeous people that are younger. And the court cards, like everybody's going to have crushes on these court cards, I tell you, because everyone's so beautiful. But look, just the face, the wisdom, the knowledge, the passion. Like I gasped when I saw how beautiful that card was, man. Okay, these two I want to talk about together. So we have the Lovers card, pretty typical Lovers card in that it's a romantic love. But I love the balance that's created here. This seems to be a very healthy depiction of the lovers, right? Like they're intertwining and in still separate beings. And we've got sort of the blues on the, now this is a masculine feminine depiction of the lovers, but I just really like the balance that's achieved here. Like as a love to sort of strive for. And then the Two of Cups, which can be sometimes a similar sort of vibe, very much a meeting of the minds, which I really like that distinction. So the more romantic and then the more mental connection. I just found those two really groovy. I love this Four of Cups. It's not actually at all a different depiction. It doesn't even make me think differently about the card, but there's something about it being food, like actual nourishment, that he's sitting in this boat just full of fish that have been caught. But where is his gaze? It's the ones he hasn't caught. He has more than enough. Look at the abundance, more than enough to nourish his body, nourish his family, probably nourish his town. And yet the gaze is outside of the boat. And look, there's a classic Anatolian moon right there. I mean, just beautiful. I just thought it was great. I really like this depiction of the Ten of Cups. This really brings to mind to me the 23rd Psalm, which I learned as a kid. One of the lines is, "My cup runneth over," which means like I am blessed beyond compare. Now, this cup is not running over. It's just perfectly full. But I do really like the generalized nature of what that could mean for anybody. You know, the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith is sort of more of a family atmosphere with young children, but that's not what's going to fill up everybody's cup. This you could apply to any situation. It's not heteronormative. I love the simplicity of this card. And you can see the colors are just stunning. This Four of Swords, I love. I love, love, love. I've always thought of the Four of Swords as like a rest, a repose, you know, sort of a time out. Is like linked in some way to the Hanged Man, except for it's more of a choice. But this gives it a whole other layer. So we clearly have a knight or a soldier of some kind. He's taken off his armor. So he's removed himself. He's resting from whatever he's been battling. But he's really alert. It's not that sleeping position that we've seen in the past. He's watching, and the horse has heard whatever he's heard too. So while he's taking that break, he's still sort of got one eye on the situation at hand. And I also love this idea that like he's really vulnerable, right? The armor's gone, but also he's completely nude. And that is a real sense of vulnerability in that time. And so maybe it's a message that you should be more vulnerable, or maybe it's like you are very vulnerable now that you're in this resting position. And so don't close both of your eyes, right? Just keep your mind on your surroundings. I think this is a fabulous interpretation of the Four of Swords, a card that I often just sort of interpret quite simply. And this card made me think differently about it. Okay. Oh, actually, I'm going to leave that one till the end, I think. Yeah, I'm going to leave that one till the end. The Fool, gorgeous. I don't know what more to say about it than that. I just love that there's so much in this card about magic and exploration and seeking new worlds and the anthropomorphization of the tree. And oh, beautiful. This one's very personal. Six of Pentacles with chickadees. I've told this story actually before because the Whispering Spirits tarot has as a card with the Hierophant with chickadees in it. And my grandfather had trained the chickadees to come and sit on his hand. And so this evokes my childhood in a very real way. But also just like the time it takes to build trust, and that relationship just, that card just means so much to me personally. So I don't know what that does for you. Maybe nothing, but and finally, I want to talk about this Tower card because I feel like one thing I was clued in on in the discussions was that this Tower card was controversial. And I also struggle with this Tower card, but it doesn't mean I don't think it's amazing because I do. I'm a vegetarian. I'm a big animal rights person. I just, this is hard. The eagle in the trap is hard. But I also have only really ever thought of the Tower, like in the traditional Rider-Waite, the tower is exploding and people are leaping or falling out of it, right? Like the crumbling is happening, like the moment is here. And now things are going to be different, right? Tower. But this is a trapped in the Tower, which is a very different energy and one I had not considered for the Tower before, right? Like you're going to have to do some work to free yourself from the Tower. It's not just going to explode and you're going to tumble to the ground out of it. So while I find this card very difficult, life is very difficult, and if the tarot is a reflection of life, then this has given me an insight on this Tower card that I had not really previously considered seriously. And so I therefore am putting it in my list of cards that I really value in the deck. I do sort of hope this isn't the one I get to frame and put on my wall. Just because it's so hard to look at, right? Some of the best and most helpful tarot cards are really hard to look at for a long period of time. Like the Five of Cups and the Animal Totem Tarot just slays me. And there's a few other ones in here too that are perfect for what they do, but tough. So that was just a list of ones that at this moment of a few days of working with this deck that have just really kind of rocked me in different ways. And again, I could do this in 5 minutes. I could go through the rest of this deck and be like, oh my God, why didn't I include this? Why didn't I say that? Like I said, I tried to be really strict with myself. But this is another category I want to talk about that I think I really love about this deck. And that this to me is a very cyclical deck. A lot of cycles here, a lot of regeneration from death, a lot of moving through cycles of life. And the more I look at the cards, the more I see it. And I just think it's really groovy to look at. So we've got lots of these examples here. I've got over 10 of them. So I'm just going to quickly go through and show you. Now this one seems quite obvious in this theme, the Empress. But the way she's like melding into the tree and the tree is melding into her. And I think trees are just such a great example of this, right? Because it's like roots and branches and back and forth. Butterflies, right? That go through their cycles of life as well. So I think that's super cool. But then I came to this Wheel of Fortune card and oh good, I think the computer's picking it up okay. And I just love this depiction, right? So the plant is coming out of the earth. It's gathered up by this mystical person. And then we have it sort of passing through and gaining and glowing the most of its power. Can you see how it's yellow at the top? And then it sort of withers and dies and is being fed back down through the ground again. Being an English teacher, this actually really makes me think of Macbeth. Which gives it a bit more of a malevolent feeling because there's of course 3 witches in Macbeth and it's bad. But it's Macbeth is all of these plays, all of these Shakespearean tragedies are very much about the Wheel of Fortune, right? You cannot ride the top forever and you won't be at the bottom forever. In Macbeth, this is completely manipulated by witches in the play, like the 3 Macbeth witches, which is why it makes me think of that because I have that play on the brain because I teach it. But I just love that Wheel of Fortune so much. And then, of course, there's a tree growing with new branches in the background, which is just so awesome. Death card. There's often a lot of regeneration in different death cards, but this one I think is really beautifully complex. Roots. Right, clearly we have a dead person, but the roots have stretched into the ground. Interestingly, it looks like rock. and then birds coming out, but they're still a product of death. Sorry, my computer timed out there. So it's just, it's super cool. Four of Wands. This card usually has a garland on it, and so does this one. But this is literal generations, cycles, right? That we have an older woman with a flower in her hair who's putting flowers into the hair of the young woman, right? These sort of family traditions or skills that get passed down. And I wondered, is she even taking, because both flowers, the woman's holding a red flower, there's a red flower in her hair, did she take it out of her hair and pass it down to another generation? And there's flowers surrounding them. I just think that's a gorgeous card. I love the Five of Wands because, again, it's generational. It seems to me there's an adult or sort of an older boy in the foreground, sort of yelling at the other ones in the tree. That sort of idea of battle / play in the Five of Wands, I think, is really cool. And again, these cycles that people go through and kind of outgrow is really well represented here. The Five of Cups. Woof. Like I said, the Animal Totem Tarot's got a really sad Five of Cups. And here's another, the elephant grieving, which we know they do. But when I think about it as well in this cycle idea, with this cycle thesis for the deck, that, grief is part of the cycle of life, and we're just going to do it. And it's gross. Well, it's not gross. It's difficult. And we never want to be in a situation where we're grieving, but that's what life is. And these elephants, like, they grieve their dead instinctively, right? This isn't a human invention. It's deeper than that. And I think that's really beautiful. Beautiful. The Three of Swords is often a pierced heart. But this is a pierced sprouting heart. And as a matter of fact, the damage to the heart it looks like it's already been done. But you can see the growth coming out of it again. It's almost like it's, a moment beyond the traditional Three of Swords energy. There isn't the raindrops, but there are the rain clouds. I just think it's, again, that cycle. Your heart won't be broken forever. It will grow out in new ways. And there may always be a little scar in there. But that then becomes a valuable part of you. I really like that. Ten of Swords with carrion, right? This is really interesting that there is death, but also new life. And this is an image that we often find very ugly, but it depends on whose perspective you have, right? This is a literal card of life for the birds. I remember watching it was one of those Planet Earth documentaries, and it was a really hard watch. It was a mother humpback whale and her calf being pursued by an orca who eventually tired them out and ate the calf. And I said to my husband, "Oh God, that was awful. Why do we even watch this show?" And he said, "Well, we are on the side because we're following the mother and the orca, but that killer whale has to live too. And if it were filmed from the perspective of a hungry killer whale desperately for hours trying to get food to survive himself, you'd feel differently about it." So even though it's a difficult image, it's got that cyclical nature to it. The Page of Swords, I love because there's magic and books and learning. And sometimes you got to hit the books. Right? It's not always about having the knowledge. It's about where you're taking the time to get the knowledge from. That he wouldn't have the little flames or magic coming out of his hand if he didn't also have the open books around him. And again, that cycle of gaining and using knowledge. The Ace of Pentacles is also very much a card in a cycle, right? That we've got the plant growing through the skull. That's actually the cover of the companion book. And I think it's just so cool and so gorgeous. Growing past and beyond, new inspiration, a new time to work and grow things for yourself. And finally, this one also, I could have put this in the other category of ones that, made me think about it differently. But I love this Four of Pentacles. This is my last one here. But this idea that this skeleton is waving out the window, bejeweled and adorned. But that's not the time for you to be wearing your jewelry and adornments. And the waving of the window implies to me that there's someone that this could have been given to, right? That this hoarding of wealth, it becomes ridiculous. This keeping of resources becomes a mockery of what it could be good for, outside in the fresh sunlight of the world, as opposed to this dark and dank sort of cabin that the skeleton is holed up in. And that, you know, in order to keep cycles going, you can't hoard. You need to pass things on and be generous and kind. So I love that Four of Pentacles. So as you can see, there's a lot of richness in this particular deck. I'm really enjoying it. I'm so glad to have it. And I won't say anything more about it because I know I mean, they'll probably come up for sale at some point. So keep your eyes peeled on tarot trade groups if you're really just desperate to have this particular deck. You know, give it Avalon Cameron a look, have a follow, but do also know, oh, and she also does readings and stuff. So I'll link to her Etsy page as well, even though she won't be selling this deck through it at the moment. But also give Anna Turian a look. If you saw this art style and you thought, you know, yes, please, I can show just a few while I'm talking that we haven't. Oh, we should talk about how gorgeous the court cards are, like literally gorgeous, and how everybody's going to fall in love with them. I mean, like, it's ridiculous. But they also look like still real people. I wasn't a huge fan of the Lumina because they're too model-y for me. Too much models. Oh, there we go. There's our King of Wands there. Yeah, I just wasn't into it. There's our gorgeous Page of Cups. I mean, it's probably just who I'm attracted to in life, but these kings are just like, so even the cat loves them. Isn't he beautiful, kitty? I'm not gonna, sorry, the cat's now all up in my business. Oh, whatever, I can't. It's too hard. Oh gosh, sorry. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you found something valuable out of it. Even if you aren't able to get this deck, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I can't wait to see you again. Bye.